No makeup, Mike?
Yeah, that's it. What you see is what you get. I actually got in touch with Christian via a old good friend of mine who recommended him thoroughly, and plus obviously was a huge fan of his previous work, and basically we really wanted to double down and make the story of the game as strong as we could. So we thought, who's the absolute, best person we could get in touch with? And
like so many modern relationships, ours started on the internet. And they contacted me kind of out of the blue, but through a common friend. So it was one of those lucky events in life.
I think it was just, are you available?
Yeah, I think it was something like that.
Yeah, something along those lines.
What are you doing for the next few months was kind of like the first question. And I guess my first question was, for what?
I'm here to capture or kill Bill Williamson.
Okay.
Christian worked on Red Dead Redemption, which I think from the beginning of this project was one of our key reference points for a whole bunch of reasons. In particular, I think the way, the historical authenticity, the incredibly strong, storytelling, the way the storytelling and the world were so effectively tied together. Like it was a huge inspiration.
I think that there is a lot in Red Dead that is in other games that I've done from a story perspective. And then of course it's a big collaboration. Red Dead was a huge collaboration, and equally this game is a collaboration with Mike and his team. So I was introduced to the books when I was a kid.
Certainly went back to the films, went back to the books, which obviously was something I'd done pretty regularly, kind of since I was 5 anyway. So I think in particular went back to the specific moments in the films and the books that were the kind of key inspirations for the story that we wanted to tell as well. Really went back and looked at these characters like Boromir and like Saruman and like Gollum and like Galadriel when she could have reached out to take the ring, and so many of these sort of conflicted characters who had these, and really started diving more into researching the themes and the underlying ideas of the story. So the concepts of power and the concepts of how he dealt with death and deathlessness and the connections to bigger myths and the underlying myths and the underlying stories that make Lord of the Rings so incredibly timeless.
I didn't get to see the Hobbit early. What, did you?
I saw it at the movies.
You never told me that.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I don't know if I would feel even comfortable doing it, because this is very much our story, our take on the story. And I believe that the filmmakers have done an amazing job, and why it has been so successful is because it's an angle, it's a take, it's a strong take, but it's also very personal to them. And we just wanted to do the same. We wanted it to be very respectful of the material, very inspired by the material, but by our own take.
Something Tolkien does write about is, and something he does incredibly well, is he brings this amazing attention to detail to events, and then he leaves these incredible, spaces for other people to fill out, either with their imaginations, which is what we all do when we're kids and we read it, or for us where we get lucky enough to actually do it. It's set in between The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings, and so there's an incredibly rich amount of history, and there's a fairly good stretch of time that happens there. And it's a time when the world is in this state of transition. So it's kind of like what Europe was like in the 30s. It's in between these two wars, everything's poised, everything's in transition. That makes it incredibly exciting. It also gives you hooks to both of the other stories, so you can kind of be simultaneously a sequel to the events we're going to see in The Hobbit, and also a prequel to Lord of the Rings. So you've got both of those opportunities at the same time. And Mordor is such an exciting setting to be able to show that in a way that it's never been seen before, because it is prior to becoming the blasted hellscape that we see in Lord of the Rings.
The story is really the journey of this main character. His name is Talion. He's propelled into the story by the events that surround the return of Sauron. The entire garrison at the Black Gate, that is one of the bastions of Mordor, and guarded by a watch of Gondorian rangers. They're completely wiped out in the act of Sauron returning to his domain. And Talion's family is part of the people that get killed. Now, Talion should have also been killed like everybody else, but he's not. He's alive, and he's haunted by a spirit of vengeance, like a wraith, that is now there with him. Forward momentum, at least in the first moments of the story, is a strong desire for vengeance for what happened. But clearly, the arc of the character evolves from simply finding the people that did this to his family into what is this curse that is actually preventing me from being reunited with my family. The presence of Talion's family is both a gateway into the story. The story is so epic, and the themes are so big, and the stakes, as I said, are so high, that we needed an entry point that would allow people to really understand in the micro level what's happening in the macro level. And if I say, the world is on the brink of disaster, it could be so big that your mind doesn't understand it or doesn't fully absorb it. But when I say your family is in danger, everybody has a family, and everybody can connect to that.
And Talion is trying to uncover this mystery of why he can't find peace with his family. So they're not only in his past, they're in his future as well. He's trying to get back to them.
There will certainly be other characters, and this is a very character-driven story.
Yeah, so Sauron's been absent from Mordor for 2,000 years, so it's been inhabited by people, by different tribes, by different cultures, who are obviously enormously impacted by the return of Sauron, but they're still there at this time. So.
And we spoke of Gollum, so we also have people that have come in specifically for what has happened. So we have people that are there, people that are getting in there, people that are trying to get out of there. The environment and the events in themselves are very fertile ground for telling stories.
Yeah, I think a big goal for us is to have obviously an incredibly strong character-driven story running through that's driving Talion and the player forward, but not to make that feel disconnected from this living world that we're creating and this simulation of the society. So the two things really do inform each other. So the world feels very alive, but you're driving through this very engaging story with it as well. The story's kind of clearly marked. They can navigate through the story, but at some points moving forward in the story is going to engage in the living world, and at other points, parts of the dynamic world are going to find their way into the story. So it's just trying to, from the player's point of view, break down the sense that there's a separation between those two things, just make the world feel alive and real, and that they're experiencing this story through it.
Yes, and everything has been kept very cohesive, so everything you do anyway feels like you're pretty much operating in the same direction of advancing the story. There's nothing in this game that makes you feel like you've pressed pause on the story and you went to do something else. It's all integrated. Just be patient, because it's gonna come out soon, and it'll be worth the wait.
Yeah.
You can guarantee that it's going to be worth the wait?
I can guarantee it'll be worth the wait.